Hello. Alright, you have two basic card types. Permanents and non-permanents. Permanents, when they're played, they will stay on the battlefield, unless something else changes that. Non-permanents go directly to the graveyard once they're played. Since there are fewer non-permanents than permanents, we'll hit those first. An instance and a sorcery. Instances and sorceries, these are your wang bang magics. These are like counter spells, fireballs, lightning bolts, mind control. Well, temporary mind control, sorry. Permanent mind control would end up being a permanent, since that's most likely an enchantment. We'll get to that in a moment. Whereas a sorcery might take your enemy's creature until end of turn. The difference between instances and sorceries, besides a name, is when they can be cast. A sorcery is strictly main phase only. An instance can be cast dang well when you please. It should be noted that abilities of permanents, such as creatures, trigger at the same time as instances. They are not instances, but they go at the same speed, if you will. Sorceries, and there are some abilities that trigger as sorceries, however they will be noted to be triggered as sorceries. Alright, so first, permanent. Enchantments. I mention enchantments because they are probably the closest to being sorceries and instances, so it seems like a decent segue. There's three kinds of enchantments, but only two, as I understand it, are particularly valid these days. If I'm correct, the other one was an early thing that's gotten done away with, so I'll only stick to the two that are being done today. You've got your targeted enchantments, such as this creature gets +1/+1, or this creature gets -1/-1. Whereas you could say the other form of enchantment is kind of a enchant yourself or enchant player. It won't say that, but that's the closest I get to explaining it, because, you know, the difference of enchant this particular creature, whereas enchanting yourself probably gives all your creatures a benefit. And of course, creatures, yeah, they're your minions, your monsters, the beings that fight for you. Artifacts. Artifacts come in three different flavors. The first one is artifact creatures. They're artifacts, they're creatures. Think robots. You've got equipments. Equipments are kind of like the enchant target creature deal, but enchantments, when the creature's destroyed, go to graveyard. The equipment stays there, and you can attach it to another creature. Note, equipments have costs. There will be an equip cost, and that triggers as a sorcery. If you ever see an artifact that has an attach cost, that one triggers at the same time as an instant. That one you can do at any time. That's why they're more expensive than equip costs. Let's see. The last one is kind of similar to the enchant yourself. This is the equip yourself. For example, there's the one I can think of off the top of my head. Urzur's Armor. It prevents 1 damage from any source. Let's see. Last two. Okay, land. Now, it should be noted, almost everything is a spell except lands. Lands are not spells. They can only be played. That's the difference between played and cast. Think of it like this. Played, it's coming from your hand. It's coming from your hand. Cast means the humana humana is happening. This is important because there are certain permanents. One I can think of is, I don't know how to say its name, but it's a scepter. When it's played, you take a instance. I think it might actually be specifically an instant. It might also allow sorcery, but if nothing else, an instant of converted mana cost or 2 or less, and then it has the ability that 2 mana, and you tap the scepter, it will then cast that spell. So that's the difference between play and cast. So yeah, lands, tap them for mana. We will get more into specific lands in the color videos. And the final, Planeswalker card. Planeswalkers, remember, you are supposed to be a Planeswalker. So these are meant to simulate equals, peers, allies, if you will. They have what are called loyalty counters. Loyalty counters are both their life, if you will, as well as how much power you can get out of them. They're kind of the HP and the mana at the same time. All their abilities, usually 3 abilities. Usually there'll be one that'll put on a little bit of loyalty counter, so that's kind of a heal, if you will. And then usually have 2 abilities that take off counters. One of which that'll take off a little bit, and another one that'll just, if you're not careful, you can lose your Planeswalker through it. You can only play once per turn. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's done as a sorcery or not, but look that up yourself. The last thing to explain is legendaries. I'm not sure if Planeswalkers are considered legendaries, but they are similar enough. In fact, they're even more hardcore about the ruling than normal. But, in short, legendaries are supposed to represent specific things or peoples. It used to be that if anyone, that only one person on the entire game could have it at a time. So if I cast it, anyone else casts it, I think mine died. I'm not entirely sure how it went, but somebody's gonna die. We're gonna make sure there is at most one of that legendary on at a time. Now they've changed it that anybody can have one copy of that legendary on the battlefield at any time. So, me and my enemy can both have Bob the Stupid on our fields, but I cannot have 2 Bob the Stupids on my field. And I can also have 1 copy of Bob the Stupid and 1 copy of Bob the Smart on my side. Same person, but this is one of those times mechanic wins over story. Planeswalkers, however, get even more touchy because you can only have one of that Planeswalker. So I cannot have Bob the Stupid and Bob the Smart. I can only have one Bob if he's a Planeswalker on my field at any time. So yeah, that's it. Next we should be getting into colors. Bye.